Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Speak Now, the podcast that helps you speak English with confidence. I'm Sarah.
And I'm David. We're so excited you're here with us today because we have something really special planned for you.
That's right. Today, we're talking about one of the biggest challenges English learners face: how to think fast and speak smart in English. Have you ever been in a conversation where someone asks you a question and your mind just goes blank?
Oh, absolutely. Even native speakers experience that sometimes. But for English learners, it can feel even more challenging because you're not just thinking about what to say, you're also thinking about how to say it correctly.
Exactly. So today, we're going to give you practical tools and techniques that will help you think faster, respond quicker, and sound more natural when you speak English.
And here's the best part. These aren't complicated grammar rules or vocabulary lists you need to memorize. These are simple mental strategies that anyone can use no matter what your English level is right now.
Before we start, I want you to know something important. If you sometimes feel slow when speaking English, that's completely normal. Your brain is doing amazing work. It's processing a new language, choosing words, and creating sentences all at the same time.
That's a great point, Sarah. Think about it this way. When you speak your native language, you don't think about grammar rules. You just speak. Our goal today is to help you get closer to that natural feeling in English.
So grab a notebook if you want to take some notes, get comfortable, and let's start this journey together. By the end of today's episode, you'll have 6 powerful strategies to become a faster, smarter English speaker.
Are you ready? Let's dive in.
So David, let's start with the big question. Why does thinking fast in English really matter? I mean, isn't it more important to be correct than to be quick?
That's such a good question, Sarah. And honestly, many English learners think the same way. They want to be perfect, so they take a long time to think before they speak. But here's what happens in real conversations. If you take too long to respond, the conversation moves on without you.
Exactly. Think about it like a dance. In a conversation, there's a rhythm. When someone asks you a question, they expect an answer within a few seconds. If you wait too long, the other person might think you didn't hear them, or they might start talking about something else.
And it's not just about timing. When you can think and respond quickly, you feel more confident. Confidence makes you sound better even if your grammar isn't perfect.
That's so true. I'd rather hear someone say, I think, pizza is great with confidence than someone who waits 30 seconds and then says, in my opinion, pizza is a very delicious food item. The first person sounds more natural and friendly.
Perfect example. Now, let me ask you something, Sarah. What do you think stops people from thinking quickly in English?
Oh, I see this all the time with students. The biggest problem is what I call the perfectionist trap. People want their English to be 100% correct, so they try to translate everything from their native language first.
Yes, that's like trying to drive a car while looking in the rearview mirror. You're focused on your native language instead of moving forward with English.
Great comparison. Another big issue is fear. People are afraid of making mistakes, so they overthink everything. But here's a secret. Native speakers make mistakes all the time. We say, we repeat words, we sometimes use the wrong grammar, but we keep talking.
Absolutely. Let me give you a real example. Yesterday, I was talking to my friend, and I said, I goed to the store. That's wrong. It should be I went to the store. But you know what? My friend understood me perfectly, and we continued our conversation.
See, even David makes mistakes, and English is his native language. So listeners, please don't worry about being perfect. Focus on communicating your ideas.
Now, let's talk about the benefits of thinking fast in English. Sarah, what changes when people start responding more quickly?
Oh, so many things improve. First, conversations become more natural. Instead of stopping and starting, the conversation flows like a river.
That's beautiful. And when conversations flow better, you actually practice more English. Think about it. In a 30-minute conversation, if you spend half the time thinking, you only get 15 minutes of speaking practice.
Exactly. Plus, when you respond quickly, other people want to talk to you more. Nobody wants to have a conversation that feels like a slow-motion movie.
And here's something interesting. When you practice thinking fast, you actually start thinking in English instead of translating. This is huge for becoming fluent.
That's the goal we all want to reach. So let me ask our listeners this. Have you ever noticed that sometimes when you're relaxed or excited, English words come more easily? Maybe when you're talking about something you love, like your hobby or your family.
That's a great observation. That happens because you're not overthinking. You're just sharing your thoughts. That's the feeling we want to create all the time.
Before we move to our next segment, let's do a quick exercise for everyone listening. David, can you give them something simple to try?
Absolutely. Everyone, I want you to say 3 things you did yesterday. But here's the rule. You only have 10 seconds total for all 3 things. Don't worry about perfect grammar, just speak. Ready? Start now.
How did that feel? I bet some of you surprised yourselves with how much you could say when you didn't have time to overthink.
Exactly. That's your brain working in English mode, not translation mode. Remember that feeling. We're going to help you create it more often.
All right, now that we understand why thinking fast matters, let's learn some specific techniques to make it happen. David, are you ready to share some mental strategies?
I'm ready. Let's go to segment 2.
Welcome to segment 2. Now we're going to learn some powerful mental techniques that will help your brain work faster in English. David, what's the first technique you want to share?
The first technique I love is called the first word strategy. Instead of trying to plan your whole sentence, just say the first word that comes to your mind and then let the rest follow.
Oh, this is brilliant. Can you give us an example of how this works?
Sure. Let's say someone asks you, "What do you think about the weather today?" Instead of thinking, "I need to use the correct grammar and say, I think the weather today is," just start with the first word, beautiful, or cold, or rainy.
And then what happens?
Then your brain naturally continues. You might say, beautiful, I love sunny days like this, or cold, I need to wear my jacket. The first word opens the door and the rest comes naturally.
I love this technique because it stops you from getting stuck at the beginning. Sometimes the hardest part is just starting to speak.
Exactly, Sarah. What's your favorite mental technique?
My favorite is the bridge phrase method. These are simple phrases that give your brain time to think while you're already talking. They're like bridges that connect your thoughts.
That sounds really useful. Can you give us some examples?
Of course. Here are some bridge phrases you can use. That's a great question, David. You know what I think. The thing is, actually, these phrases buy you 2 or 3 seconds to organize your thoughts.
Oh, I see. So instead of silence while you think, you're already speaking. That keeps the conversation flowing.
Exactly. Let me demonstrate. David, ask me a difficult question and I'll use a bridge phrase.
Okay. Sarah, what's your opinion about artificial intelligence in education?
That's a great question, David. You know what I think? AI can be really helpful for learning, but teachers are still very important because, humans understand emotions better than computers do.
Perfect. I heard 3 bridge phrases there. That's a great question. You know what I think. And I mean. Those gave you time to organize your thoughts while still talking.
Exactly. Listeners, try using 1 or 2 bridge phrases in your next English conversation. You'll be amazed at how much more confident you feel.
Now, here's another powerful technique I call the simple switch. When you can't think of a perfect word, don't stop. Just use a simpler word and keep going.
This is so important. Can you show us how this works?
Sure. Let's say you want to say, the movie was extraordinary, but you can't remember the word extraordinary. Don't stop. Just say, the movie was really, really good. The meaning is the same.
Yes, communication is about sharing ideas, not showing off vocabulary. A simple word that people understand is always better than a complex word you're not sure about.
Here's another example. Instead of saying, I'm contemplating, you can say, I'm thinking about. Instead of utilize, say use. Simple words are powerful words.
Now let's talk about a technique I call the story method. When someone asks you a question, turn your answer into a mini story. Stories are easier to tell because they follow a natural order.
I love stories. How does this work for English learners?
Well, instead of just answering yes or no, you can say yes, and here's what happened. For example, if someone asks, do you like cooking? Instead of just saying yes, you could say, yes, last week I tried to make pasta, but I forgot to put salt in the water. It was terrible, but I learned something new.
That's so much more interesting. And stories have a beginning, middle, and end, which makes them easier to organize in your mind.
Exactly. Plus, people love hearing stories. They're more likely to listen carefully and respond to you.
Here's one more technique that I find really helpful. The question flip. When you don't know how to answer a question, you can ask a question back to give yourself more time.
Oh, this is clever. Show us how it works.
Okay, let's say someone asks you, what's your favorite type of music? And you can't think quickly. You can say, that's interesting. What about you? What kind of music do you like? While they answer, you have time to think about your own response.
That's brilliant. Plus, it shows you're interested in the other person, which is always good for conversations.
But remember, don't overuse this technique. Use it when you really need a moment to think, not for every question.
Great point. Now let's give our listeners a chance to practice these techniques. David, can you create a quick exercise?
Absolutely. Everyone listening, I'm going to ask you a question, and I want you to use at least one of these techniques. First word strategy, bridge phrases, simple switch, story method, or question flip. Ready?
Here's the question. What's your favorite season of the year and why?
Take 30 seconds to answer out loud. Use any technique we just learned. Start.
It takes about 3 seconds to recognize a word in Spanish can be applied to a new sound and answering a question with a subjective answer. And can you repeat the simple switch example?
Yeah, so the example was the movie was extraordinary, and a simpler word would be the movie was really, really good.
And what about the using simple words instead of complex words?
Yeah, so instead of contemplating, you say, I'm thinking about, and instead of a utilize, you can say use.
Okay, that's great. And what about the question flip?
Yeah, the question flip is when you ask a question back so you can give yourself more time. So if someone asks you, what's your favorite music? You can say, that's interesting. What about you? What kind of music do you like?
Okay, great. Let's move on to the practical exercises. What's your first exercise that you recommend?
My favorite exercise is called the 1-minute challenge. Here's how it works. Choose any topic, your job, your family, your hobbies, and talk about it for exactly 1 minute without stopping.
The key is to never stop talking, even if you make mistakes or can't find the perfect word. If you get stuck, just say, or well, or but keep your voice going. This trains your brain to think while speaking.
I love this. And 1 minute might seem short, but when you're talking continuously, it's actually quite long. What topics work best for beginners?
Great question. Start with topics you know well. Talk about your daily routine, describe your house, or tell a story about your childhood. When you know the content well, you can focus on the speaking speed.
Here's a tip for our listeners. Record yourself doing this exercise. When you listen back, you'll hear your progress. You might be surprised at how good you sound.
Excellent idea. Now, David, what's your favorite speaking exercise?
I love the question chain exercise. You start with one question, answer it, then ask yourself a related question, answer that one, and keep going. It's like having a conversation with yourself.
That sounds really practical. Can you show us how it works?
Sure. I'll start with a simple question. What did I eat for breakfast? My answer, I ate toast and eggs. Next question, why did I choose that? Answer, because it's quick and healthy. Next question, what other healthy foods do I like? Answer, I like fruits, especially apples and bananas. And I keep going.
I see. This exercise helps you connect ideas naturally, just like in real conversations. Plus, you never run out of things to say because each answer creates a new question.
Exactly. And it teaches you to build conversations instead of just giving short answers.
Now, let's talk about an exercise that helps with clarity, the slow to fast method. You start by speaking very slowly and clearly, then gradually increase your speed.
This sounds like a great way to build confidence. How exactly does it work?
First, choose a simple sentence like, I went to the store to buy some milk. Say it very slowly, focusing on each word clearly. Then repeat it a little faster, then faster again, until you reach normal speed.
So you're training your mouth muscles and your brain at the same time.
Exactly. This exercise is especially good for pronunciation practice. When you speak slowly first, you can focus on difficult sounds and then maintain that clarity as you speed up.
Here's another exercise I love, the random word game. You pick 3 random words and try to connect them in a story or explanation as quickly as possible.
Ooh, this sounds fun. How do you choose the random words?
You can look around the room and pick 3 objects you see or open a dictionary to 3 random pages. Let me try it now. I see a pen, a window, and a coffee cup. Now I'll connect them. I was writing with my pen when I looked out the window and saw my neighbor drinking from a coffee cup in her garden.
That's brilliant. This exercise forces your brain to make creative connections quickly, which is exactly what happens in real conversations.
And it's impossible to prepare for this exercise, so you have to think on your feet. That's the skill we want to develop.
Now, here's an exercise that many people find really helpful, the shadow speaking. You play an audio or video in English and try to repeat everything you hear at the same time as the speaker.
I've heard of this technique. It's like singing along to a song, but with regular speech, right?
Exactly. Start with slower content like news reports or educational videos. As you get better, you can try faster content like conversations or interviews.
What does this exercise improve?
It improves so many things: your listening skills, your pronunciation, your rhythm, and most importantly, your ability to process English quickly. When you can shadow someone else's speech, your brain is working at the same speed as a fluent speaker.
That makes perfect sense. Now, let's talk about the emotion exercise. This one is really fun. You take a simple sentence and say it with different emotions.
Ooh, I love this. It helps you practice the rhythm and tone of English. Can you demonstrate?
Sure. I'll use the sentence, I'm going to the park. Now I'll say it happily. I'm going to the park. Sadly, I'm going to the park. Excitedly, I'm going to the park. Questioningly, I'm going to the park.
Perfect. Each emotion changes how you speak. The speed, the stress, the tone. This helps you sound more natural and expressive in English.
And it's fun. You can do this exercise anywhere, in your car, in the shower, while walking. No one will know you're practicing English.
Now let's give our listeners a practical exercise they can try right now. David, what should they do?
Great idea. Everyone, let's try the description challenge. Look around you right now and describe everything you see in 30 seconds. Don't worry about perfect grammar, just talk. Ready? Start now.
After a pause,
How did that feel? Did you manage to talk for the full 30 seconds? If you ran out of things to say, try adding details like colors, sizes, or your opinions about the objects.
the key to all these exercises is regular practice. Just 5 to 10 minutes a day can make a huge difference in your speaking speed and confidence.
And remember, these exercises should be fun. If you enjoy them, you'll do them more often and you'll improve faster.
Absolutely. Now, speaking of challenges, let's talk about what to do when your mind goes completely blank during a conversation.
Oh, yes, the dreaded brain freeze. Let's move to segment 4 and learn how to handle that situation.
Welcome to segment 4. Let's talk about every English learner's nightmare. That moment when someone asks you a question and your mind just goes completely blank. David, has this ever happened to you, even in your native language?
Oh, absolutely. Just last week, someone asked me my phone number and I couldn't remember it for about 10 seconds. My mind just disappeared. So this definitely happens to everyone, not just English learners.
That makes me feel better. But I think it happens more often when we're speaking a second language because we're already using more mental energy.
Exactly. So let's learn some strategies to prevent this from happening and what to do if it does happen.
The first strategy is what I call the preparation method. Before you go into situations where you might need to speak English, think about possible questions people might ask you.
That's smart. Can you give us some examples?
Sure. If you're going to a job interview, practice answers to common questions like, "Tell me about yourself," or "Why do you want this job?" If you're going to a party, think about how you'll answer, "What do you do for work?" or "How do you know the host?"
I love this because you're not memorizing scripts. You're just getting your brain ready to think about these topics in English.
Exactly. And here's a tip. Don't try to memorize perfect answers. Just think about the main points you want to mention. This way, your answers will still sound natural.
Now, here's another prevention strategy, the relaxation technique. When you feel nervous or stressed, your brain doesn't work as well. So we need to learn how to stay calm.
This is so important. What relaxation techniques work best for speaking situations?
The simplest one is deep breathing. Before you speak, take a slow, deep breath. This sends more oxygen to your brain and helps you think more clearly.
And here's something interesting. If you smile, even when you don't feel happy, it actually changes your brain chemistry. You feel more confident, and confident people speak more fluently.
That's fascinating. So we can actually trick our brains into feeling more confident?
In a way, yes. Your brain and your body are connected. When your body acts confident, straight posture, relaxed shoulders, smile, your brain starts to feel more confident too.
Now, let's talk about what to do when your mind does go blank, despite all our prevention strategies. The first rule is don't panic.
Yes, panic makes everything worse. Instead, use what I call the honest approach. It's okay to say, "Sorry, I need a moment to think about that."
People actually appreciate honesty. It's much better than standing there in silence, looking confused.
And here's another phrase you can use. "That's an interesting question. Let me think." This buys you time while showing you're engaged with the conversation.
Now, here's one of my favorite techniques, the bridge back method. If you can't think of an answer to this specific question, you can bridge back to something related that you can talk about.
Can you show us how this works?
Sure. Let's say someone asks you, "What's your opinion about the new tax policy?"
and you have no idea about taxes. You could say, I don't know much about taxes specifically, but I do think it's important for people to understand where their money goes.
That's brilliant. You're being honest about not knowing, but you're still contributing to the conversation.
Exactly. You're moving from a difficult topic to a related topic you can actually discuss.
Another technique I love is the question redirect. When you can't answer a question, you can say, I'm not sure about that. What's your experience with it?
This works because most people love talking about their own experiences. While they talk, you get time to think, and you might learn something that helps you respond better.
Plus, it shows you're interested in the other person, which makes you seem friendly and engaged, even when you're struggling with the language.
Now, here's something really important. Practice being comfortable with silence. Many English learners think they need to fill every second with words, but short pauses are actually normal in conversations.
That's such a good point. Native speakers pause to think too. A 2 or 3 second pause is not a problem. It's just part of natural speech.
And if you need a longer pause, you can use filler sounds like well, or let me see. These sounds tell the other person you're thinking, not finished talking.
Here's another strategy, the partial answer method. If you can't think of a complete answer, just start with what you do know, and more ideas will come.
How does this work in practice?
Well, let's say someone asks you, what do you think about working from home? And your mind goes blank. You could start with, well, working from home, and then your brain might continue with, is different for everyone, or has some good points and some bad points.
I see. You're using the topic words from the question to get started, and then your brain naturally continues the thought.
Exactly. Sometimes starting to speak actually helps you think of what to say next.
Now, let's practice this. Sarah, I'm going to ask you a difficult question, and I want you to demonstrate what to do if your mind goes blank.
Okay, I'm ready.
Sarah, what's your detailed analysis of the economic impact of renewable energy on developing countries?
Wow, that's a really complex question, David. I'm not an expert on economics, but I do think renewable energy is generally good for any country because, well, it can create new jobs and it's better for the environment. What do you think about the job creation aspect?
Perfect. You used several techniques there. You acknowledged the complexity, admitted you're not an expert, found something you could say, and redirected with a question.
And I didn't panic. Even though I don't know much about economics, I kept the conversation going.
That's the key. Keep the conversation going. You don't need to be an expert on everything. You just need to be a good conversation partner.
Before we move to the next segment, let's give our listeners a quick exercise. Think of a topic you know nothing about, maybe quantum physics or ancient history. Practice saying, I don't know much about that, but, and then connecting it to something you do know.
Great exercise. This helps you feel more confident about admitting when you don't know something, which is actually a sign of wisdom, not weakness.
Absolutely. Now, speaking of difficult situations, let's talk about how to handle unexpected questions, those curveball questions that come out of nowhere.
Oh, yes. Those questions that make you think, where did that come from? Let's move to segment 5. Welcome to segment 5. Now we're going to talk about those surprise questions that seem to come out of nowhere in conversations. Sarah, what exactly do we mean by unexpected questions?
Great question. These are questions that you didn't prepare for, questions that change the topic suddenly, or questions that are much more personal or complex than you expected.
For example, you might be talking about the weather and suddenly someone asks,
So what's your biggest dream in life? It's like the conversation just took a sharp turn.
Exactly. Or you're in a casual conversation about food and someone asks, "What do you think is wrong with society today?" These questions can make your brain freeze because they're so different from what you were expecting.
So the first strategy for handling unexpected questions is what I call the pause and pivot. You acknowledge the question, take a moment, and then steer it towards something you can discuss.
Can you show us how this works?
Sure. Let's say someone suddenly asks me, "What's your philosophy of life?" I could say, "Wow, that's a deep question. I've never really thought about having one big philosophy, but I do try to be kind to people every day."
I love that. You didn't pretend to have a complex philosophy, but you found a real, simple answer that's true for you.
Exactly. The key is to be authentic. Don't try to sound more intelligent or profound than you are. Just be yourself.
Here's another strategy I call the connect and simplify method. When you get an unexpected question, try to connect it to your personal experience and make it simpler.
How does that work?
Well, if someone asks, "What's your opinion on global warming?" instead of trying to discuss complex science, you could say, "I'm not a scientist, but I have noticed the summers seem hotter than when I was a child. I try to use less electricity at home."
That's perfect. You connected a big, complex topic to your personal experience, which makes it much easier to talk about.
And personal experiences are always interesting to listen to. People connect more with stories than with abstract ideas.
Here's another technique, the 3 points answer. When you get an unexpected question, try to give 3 simple points. This makes you sound organized, even when you're thinking on your feet.
Can you demonstrate this technique?
Sure. If someone asks me, "Why do you think people travel?" I could say, "I think there are 3 main reasons. First, people want to see new places. Second, they want to learn about different cultures. And third, they want to take a break from their normal routine."
That sounds so organized. Even if you're making up those 3 points as you go, the structure makes you sound confident and thoughtful.
Exactly. And the number 3 is magic. 2 points can sound incomplete, 4 points can sound too long, but 3 points sound just right.
Now, here's a strategy that many people don't think about: the question behind the question. Sometimes unexpected questions aren't really about what they seem to be about.
That's interesting. What do you mean?
Well, if someone asks, "Do you plan to stay in this country forever?" they might not really want to know your immigration plans. They might be asking, "Do you like it here?" or "Do you feel at home here?"
Ah, I see. So instead of giving a detailed answer about visa requirements, you could talk about how you feel about living there.
Exactly. Try to understand what the person really wants to know, not just the literal meaning of their words.
Here's a technique that works really well for personal questions: the partial share method. You share something real, but you don't have to share everything.
This is so important, especially for more private questions. Can you give us an example?
Sure. If someone asks you, "What's the most difficult thing you've ever experienced?" you don't need to share your deepest trauma. You could say, "Moving to a new country was really challenging for me because I had to learn so many new things."
Perfect. You gave a real, honest answer, but you kept it at a comfortable level of privacy.
And if a question feels too personal, it's always okay to say, "That's quite personal. I'd rather not talk about that right now."
Absolutely. Good boundaries actually make conversations better, not worse. People respect you when you're clear about your limits.
Now, here's one of my favorite techniques for unexpected questions, the learning approach. Instead of pretending you know everything, show that you're curious to learn.
How does this work?
Well, if someone asks you, "What do you think about the political situation in my country?" and you don't know much about it, you could say, "I don't know much about the details. Can you help me understand what the main issues are?"
That's brilliant. You're turning your lack of knowledge into an opportunity for conversation and learning.
Plus, people love being teachers. When you ask someone to explain something, they usually feel good about sharing their knowledge.
And while they're explaining, you have time to think about how you want to respond or what questions you want to ask.
Here's another great strategy: the bridge to your interests. When you get an unexpected question about something you don't know well, try to connect it to something you do know or care about.
Can you show us how this works?
Sure. If someone asks me about a sport I don't follow, like cricket, I could say, I don't really follow cricket, but I love watching tennis. Are there any similarities between the two sports?
I love that. You're being honest about what you don't know, but you're keeping the conversation going with something you can contribute to.
And sports fans often love comparing different sports, so you've given them something interesting to talk about.
Now, let's practice. I'm going to ask you some unexpected questions, David, and you can demonstrate these techniques.
I'm ready. Bring on the curveballs.
Okay, here's your first unexpected question. If you could have dinner with any 3 people from history, who would you choose?
Wow, that's a fun question. I've never really thought about that before. I guess I'd choose someone who could teach me something new, someone who could make me laugh, and someone who lived a completely different life than mine. Maybe a great teacher, a funny writer, and an explorer from long ago. What about you? Have you thought about this before?
Excellent. You used several techniques there. You acknowledged it was unexpected, you created a structure with 3 types of people, and you turned it back to me at the end.
Now you try one, Sarah. Here's your unexpected question. What do you think happens to us after we die?
Oh my, that's definitely unexpected. You know, that's one of those big questions that people have been thinking about for thousands of years. I'm not sure anyone really knows the answer. I try to focus on making this life meaningful, and I guess I'll find out about the rest when the time comes. Do you ever think about these kinds of big questions?
Perfect. You acknowledged the complexity, gave an honest answer, and redirected to me. These techniques really do work.